The baby's screams crack against the nursery walls like glass breaking in slow motion. Eris Vale stands frozen in the doorway, his borrowed scrubs still damp from washing dishes in the estate's industrial kitchen 3 floors below. The sound isn't normal crying. It's the kind of noise that comes from a body that's given up on being soothed. Ragged, desperate, dying. A doctor he doesn't recognize slams a clipboard onto the marble changing table. Nothing. Every test comes back clean, and he's still. The man's voice breaks off as the infant's wail stutters into silence, then erupts again with renewed violence. Eris watches the woman in the rocking chair try again. She's the 4th wet nurse this week, flown in from somewhere Eris can't pronounce. Her hands shake as she adjusts the child against her chest, whispering something that might be prayer or apology. The baby arches away from her like she's poison. "Get her out," someone says from the shadows near the window. Eris's pulse jumps. He didn't see anyone there when he walked in. The voice belongs to security, one of the stone-faced men who patrol the halls with guns hidden under tailored suits. The wet nurse scrambles to her feet, nearly dropping the screaming infant before a nurse catches him. "Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is." The baby's cry shifts pitch, climbing into something animal and wrong. Eris has heard that sound before, years ago in a foster home he tries not to remember. The sound of something starving to death in real time. He should leave. Contract workers don't belong in the family wing, especially not male omegas with no clearance and no protection. But his feet won't move. He watches the nurse try to force a bottle into the baby's mouth, watches the tiny fists beat against her forearm, watches the child's face turn a shade of red that looks like bruising. How long has he been like this? Eris asks before he can stop himself. Every head in the room snaps toward him. The doctor's eyes narrow. The security guard steps out of the shadows, and Eris can see him now, tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of face that's learned not to show mercy. "Who the hell are you?" the guard asks. "Cleaning crew," Eris lies. Sort of. He does clean sometimes when they're short-staffed. "I heard the noise from. Get out." The baby screams again, and this time there's a wet rattle underneath it. Something in his lungs giving up. The nurse looks at the doctor, and the doctor looks at the guard, and no one looks at the child. Eris's hands curl into fists at his sides. When did he last eat? The silence that follows is worse than the screaming. 3 days. The nurse finally whispers. He keeps refusing. "We've tried everything, formula, breast milk from donors, even for nutrition, but his body rejects it. We don't know why." 3 days. Eris feels something cold slide down his spine. Newborns don't survive that. Not without permanent damage. Not without. The baby's cry cuts off mid-breath. Just stops. The room holds its breath with him, and for 3 seconds that feel like drowning, there's only the sound of the nurse's panic gasp and the guard's hand moving toward his weapon like this is a threat he can shoot. Then the baby inhales, shuddering, weak, alive. "You need to leave," the guard says again, but his voice has lost its edge. He sounds tired, scared maybe, though men like him don't admit to that. Eris should walk away, should go back to the kitchen or his closet-sized room in the staff quarters or anywhere that isn't here, standing in front of people who could erase him with a phone call. But he's watching the way the baby's hand opens and closes, searching for something that isn't there. Reaching for warmth or comfort or anything that might anchor him to staying alive. "I can try," Eris says. The doctor laughs. Actually laughs, sharp and mean. "You? What exactly do you think you can do that 4 specialists and $200,000 in medical equipment couldn't?" Eris doesn't have an answer. Doesn't have medical training or authority or even the right to be in this room. But he knows what hunger looks like. Knows what it feels like to be small and powerless and convinced that no one's coming to save you. He takes a step forward. The guard moves to block him, and Eris can smell the gun oil on his clothes, the coffee on his breath. This close, he can see the exhaustion carved into the man's face like something permanent. "1 minute," Eris says quietly. "If it doesn't work, I'll leave. You'll never see me again." The guard studies him with eyes that have watched people die and made peace with it. Then, impossibly, he steps aside. Eris crosses the room on legs that feel borrowed. The nurse hesitates before handing over the baby, and when Eris takes him, the weight is terrifying. Too light, fragile in a way that makes his chest hurt. The baby thrashes once, weak, then goes still in Eris's arms. Eris can feel the rapid flutter of his heartbeat through the thin blanket, can feel the heat of a body working too hard to stay alive. He sits in the rocking chair no one else wanted and adjusts the baby against his chest. The room watches him like he's performing surgery, like he's promised a miracle he can't deliver. "It's okay," Eris whispers, though he's not sure who he's trying to convince. The baby blinks up at him with dark, unfocused eyes. His mouth opens, searching, and Eris feels something shift in his own body. Something instinctive and old that he doesn't have words for. The baby's face turns toward him, roots against his chest with the desperation of something that's found water in a desert. Eris stops breathing. The guard takes a step forward. The doctor reaches for his phone. The nurse's hand flies to her mouth, and Eris realizes with a clarity that feels like falling that this moment is about to change everything. The baby roots again, more insistent now, his tiny mouth working against the fabric of Eris's scrub top, searching for something that shouldn't be possible. Something that male omegas aren't supposed to provide. "No," the doctor says, but it sounds more like a question. Eris's heart hammers against his ribs. His body feels too hot, too tight, like something inside him is waking up after years of forced sleep. He looks down at the baby, and the baby looks back, and in that moment, Eris makes a choice that will either save them both or destroy everything. He stands. The room erupts in protests, but he's already moving toward the door marked private. The one he's seen nurses disappear behind during night shifts. The feeding room, the one with locks and privacy and no cameras. "Stop him," someone shouts, but the guard doesn't move, just watches with an expression Eris can't read as he crosses the threshold and closes the door behind him. The lock clicks into place with a sound like a verdict. Eris leans back against the door, the baby still clutched to his chest, and tries to understand what he's just done. In the silence, he can hear his own pulse, can hear the baby's breathing start to even out now that the noise and lights are gone, can hear footsteps in the hall outside, slow and deliberate, moving closer. The baby's hand curls around Eris's finger, grip surprisingly strong, and Eris realizes he's been wrong about one thing. The choice isn't his anymore. It's already been made. What would you do if saving someone meant crossing a line you can never uncross? The feeding room smells like lavender and something sharper underneath. Disinfectant trying to mask the scent of fear that's soaked into the walls. Eris's hands won't stop shaking. He's locked in a room meant for women, holding a baby that's seconds from dying, and his body is doing something that shouldn't be possible. He can feel it, the ache spreading through his chest like heat, the way his skin feels too sensitive against the fabric of his scrubs, the biological response he's only read about in medical textbooks he had no business reading. Male omegas don't lactate, not without hormones, not without months of preparation and pharmaceutical intervention and a dozen other things Eris doesn't have. Except his body didn't get that memo. The baby whimpers against him, weaker now, and Eris forces his thoughts to go quiet. He sits in the leather recliner that probably costs more than he made all last year and tries to remember how to breathe. The baby's mouth works against his chest, rooting with an urgency that feels like drowning. Eris's fingers tremble as he pulls the scrub top aside. His skin is flushed, hot to the touch, and when the baby latches, the pain is immediate and shocking, not the gentle discomfort the parenting books describe. This is sharp and raw and accompanied by a rush of shame so strong it makes his vision blur. He bites down on his lip hard enough to taste copper. This isn't how it's supposed to work. He's not supposed to be here, not supposed to be able to do this. But the baby drinks, desperate at first, then slower as his body remembers what it's like not to starve. Eris feels something inside him unlock, a biological switch flipping on after years of being told it didn't exist. The sensation is overwhelming, intimate in a way that makes him want to leave his own skin. He thinks about the foster home when he was 12. The woman who told him that omegas like him were mistakes. Broken. The baby's breathing evens out. His tiny hand relaxes against Eris's chest, fingers splaying like a starfish. For the first time in days, maybe ever, he looks peaceful. Eris's throat tightens. He blinks hard against the pressure building behind his eyes and tells himself it's exhaustion. Just exhaustion. Not the sudden, terrifying realization that he's attached to this child he's known for less than an hour. Not the understanding that when they open that door, everything changes. The baby's eyes drift closed. His mouth slips free, and a small sound of contentment escapes him. Something between a sigh and a coo that does permanent damage to the walls Eris has built around his heart. He adjusts his scrub top with shaking hands and cradles the baby against his shoulder. The weight is still too light, but better. Stronger. The baby's breath comes steady now, warm against Eris's neck, and Eris lets his own eyes close for just a moment. This is the part in the story where someone should be grateful. Where the door opens and the family thanks him, and maybe, just maybe, things get easier. Eris knows better. He's seen what happens to people without power who become too useful to ignore but too inconvenient to acknowledge. They disappear. Not violently, just quietly reassigned or transferred or let go for performance issues no one can prove. The baby shifts in his arms, settling deeper into sleep, and Eris realizes he can hear something through the door. Voices. Low and urgent, and too many for just the staff members who were here before. His pulse spikes. He considers the window, 3rd floor, but there's a ledge, then dismisses it. Running now would confirm every suspicion they're forming. Would mark him as someone with something to hide. Besides, he can't take the baby, and leaving him feels like carving out a piece of himself. The door handle turns before Eris is ready. He straightens in the chair, trying to look calm, trying to look like someone who hasn't just shattered every biological rule he's been taught. The door opens slowly, and the guard from before steps inside first. His eyes go immediately to the baby, then to Eris's face, scanning like he's reading evidence at a crime scene. "He's sleeping," Eris says, and his voice comes out steadier than he feels. The guard doesn't respond, just studies them both with an intensity that makes Eris's skin prickle. Then he steps aside and 3 more people enter. The doctor from before, the nurse, and someone new. Eris knows without being told that this man is important. It's in the way the others defer to him, shifting their bodies to make space. It's in the way he moves, measured, controlled like violence on a leash. He's tall, dark-haired, with features that would be handsome if they weren't quite so sharp. His suit probably costs more than Eris's college debt. He looks at the baby first, then at Eris, and his expression gives away nothing. "Out," he says to the others. Not loud, not aggressive, but absolute. The doctor opens his mouth like he wants to argue, then thinks better of it. They file out in silence, and the door clicks shut behind them. Eris is alone with the stranger and the sleeping baby, and the certain knowledge that whatever happens next will determine whether he walks out of this room or gets carried out. The man doesn't speak right away. He moves to the window, hands in his pockets, and stares at the estate grounds like he's seeing something Eris can't. The silence stretches so long it starts to ache. "What's your name?" he finally asks. "Eris Vale. How long have you worked here?" "For months." "In what capacity?" "Asset management, inventory, whatever needs doing." The man's jaw tightens like Eris said something wrong. "And you thought it needed doing to lock yourself in a room with my son?" The temperature drops 10 degrees. Eris's arms tighten instinctively around the baby, and he realizes his mistake a second too late. The man's eyes track the movement, and something dangerous flashes across his face. "He was dying," Eris says quietly. I wasn't trying to." "What were you trying to do?" "Help." The word hangs between them like a blade. The man turns from the window, and Eris can see him properly now. Can see the exhaustion carved into the edges of his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the way his hand keeps moving toward his pocket like he's reaching for something that isn't there. This is a man who's been watching his child starve and couldn't fix it. A man who's used to control and face something that wouldn't bow to power or money or threats. "Show me," the man says. Eris's stomach drops. "Show you what?" "What you did." The silence that follows feels like suffocation. Eris can't tell if this is a test or a trap or both. Can't tell if honesty will save him or condemn him. The baby stirs against his chest, making a small sound of protest, and Eris realizes he doesn't have a choice. "I fed him," he says simply. The man's expression doesn't change, but something shifts in his posture. "How?" is not a question. Eris swallows against the dryness in his throat and decides that if he's going to be thrown out, or worse, he might as well tell the truth. "The way it's supposed to work," he says. "The way his body needed it to." The man takes a step closer, then another. He moves like water, smooth and inevitable, until he's standing directly in front of the chair. Close enough that Eris can smell expensive cologne and something underneath it. Coffee and sleeplessness and desperation. "That's impossible," the man says. "I know. Male omegas can't. I know." The man's hand moves before Eris can react. Not violent, just deliberate. His fingers brush against Eris's jaw, tilting his face toward the light, and Eris forgets how to breathe. The touch lasts 3 seconds, maybe less. But in those seconds, Eris can feel the man's pulse through his fingertips, can see the way his pupils dilate, can smell the shift in his scent as his body recognizes something it shouldn't. The man steps back like he's been burned. His hand curls into a fist at his side, and when he speaks again, his voice is rough. "Security will take you to the East Wing. 3rd floor. You'll have a room there until we figure this out." "Figure what out?" The man's eyes cut to the baby, still sleeping peacefully in Eris's arms, and then back to Eris's face. "Whether you're a miracle or a threat." He walks to the door, opens it, and pauses with his hand on the frame. "Don't try to leave the estate. People who run don't make it past the gate." Then he's gone, and Eris is left alone with a sleeping baby and the dawning realization that his life just ended. The door opens again almost immediately. The guard from before steps inside, and this time there's something different in his expression. Not suspicion, almost respect. "Come on," he says. "Let's get you moved." Eris stands on legs that feel like water. The baby stays asleep against his chest, trusting and warm. And Eris understands with perfect clarity that he's made a choice he can't unmake. He follows the guard into the hall, and the last thing he sees before they turn the corner is a security camera swiveling to track his movements. When you become indispensable to dangerous people, are you more protected or more trapped? The East Wing smells different. Less like disinfectant and fear, more like money that doesn't need to prove itself. Eris follows the guard down a hallway lined with artwork that probably costs more than most people's houses. His arms have gone numb from holding the baby, but he doesn't dare shift his grip. The guard stops at a door marked 347 and pulls out a key card. The lock clicks, and he pushes it open, stepping aside to let Eris enter first. The room isn't a room, it's a suite. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the estate grounds. A king-sized bed that could sleep 4 people. Furniture that looks uncomfortable because it's too expensive to actually use. A bassinet in the corner that definitely wasn't there 10 minutes ago. "Bathrooms through there," the guard says, pointing. "Kitchenette has formula and bottles if you need them. Someone will bring dinner at 7. Eris turns to look at him, and the guard's expression is carefully blank. Professional, like he didn't just watch Eris get threatened by his employer. "What's your name?" Eris asks. The guard hesitates. "Dion." "Am I a prisoner here, Dion?" "No." "Then what am I?" Dion's jaw tightens. He looks at the baby, then back at Eris. "Necessary," he says finally. He leaves before Eris can ask what that means, and the lock clicks from the outside. Eris stands in the center of the suite with a sleeping baby and the understanding that not a prisoner and locked in aren't mutually exclusive. He moves to the bassinet and carefully lowers the baby into it. The child stirs, makes a small noise of protest, but doesn't wake. Eris's body aches everywhere. His chest feels raw and oversensitive. His shoulders burn from holding the baby, and there's a headache building behind his eyes that promises to get worse. He sits on the edge of the bed and lets himself shake for exactly 30 seconds. Then he stands, washes his hands in the bathroom sink, and starts learning the space. 2 exits, the main door and a balcony door that's locked from outside. 1 camera in the corner by the ceiling, small enough that most people wouldn't notice. 3 windows, all reinforced glass. He's cataloging the kitchenette when he hears voices in the hall. Not raised, not angry, just low and controlled in the way that means decisions are being made. Eris moves closer to the door and listens. Don't care what the tests say. It's not possible. I saw him feed the baby myself. You want to tell me that didn't happen? There are drugs that can induce lactation. He could be in 4 months without anyone noticing. Be realistic. The voices move away down the hall, and Eris lets out a breath he didn't know he was holding. They're talking about him like he's a science experiment, like he's something that needs explaining instead of someone who just saved their son's life. The baby makes a sound from the bassinet, not crying, just awake, and Eris crosses back to him. The dark eyes blink up at him, clearer now than they were before, and Eris realizes the baby is actually seeing him, focusing. Hey, Eris says softly, you're okay. I've got you. The baby's mouth curves into something that might be a smile or might be gas, and Eris feels that dangerous warmth spread through his chest again. He reaches down to adjust the blanket, and the baby's hand grabs his finger with surprising strength. The door opens without warning, just establishing dominance through positioning. The one from before, the one who touched Eris's face, speaks first. I'm Cade Russo. These are my brothers, Ronan and Silas. Eris can't tell which is which. They're wearing similar suits, similar expressions of controlled assessment. One of them moves closer to the bassinet, and Eris's hands clench at his sides. He's sleeping, Eris says, and he hears the edge in his own voice. The brother, Ronan or Silas, glances at him. I can see that. Then you can also see he doesn't need 3 strange men crowding him. The silence that follows could cut glass. Cade's eyebrows rise slightly, and one of the brothers, the one still by the door, makes a sound that might be a laugh. Strange men, Cade repeats slowly. He's our son. Then maybe you should have been there when he was dying. The words are out before Eris can stop them, sharp and accusing and deeply, irreversibly stupid. He watches all 3 men's expressions shift. Not to anger exactly, something colder. The brother by the bassinet straightens. He's taller than his brothers by maybe an inch, with a scar through his left eyebrow that makes him look perpetually skeptical. You think we weren't? I think I was alone with him in that feeding room, Eris says, his voice steadier than he feels. I think the only reason you know he's alive right now is because someone without a medical degree or a family name decided to try. The scarred brother takes a step toward him, then another. He moves into Eris's space with the confidence of someone who's never been told no, and Eris can smell his scent now. Something dark and cedar-like that makes the omega part of his brain go very quiet and very alert. What's your designation? The brother asks. What? Alpha, Beta, Omega. What are you? Eris's jaw tightens. What do you think I am? I think you smell like fear and exhaustion and something else I can't place. I think you just disrespected 3 men who could make you disappear, and you're still standing here like you've got the right. So I'll ask again, what are you? The brother's hand moves, and Eris flinches before he can stop himself. But the touch isn't violent. The man's fingers catch Eris's chin, gentler than Cade's had been, but just as absolute, and tilt his face up into the light. Omega, the brother says after a moment. Male, unmated, unbonded. His thumb brushes against Eris's jaw, and Eris feels his pulse spike. Scared out of your mind, but too stubborn to run. Is that about right? Eris jerks his head back. The brother lets him, but his eyes stay locked on Eris's face like he's memorizing something. Ronan, Cade says quietly. That's enough. So the scarred one is Ronan, which means the one still by the door is Silas. Eris files the information away and tries to slow his heartbeat down to something that won't give him a panic attack. Silas speaks for the first time, and his voice is softer than his brother's. Almost kind. "We're not here to hurt you. Just intimidate me? No. Watch you. That's not better." Silas's mouth curves slightly. He moves away from the door, crossing to the kitchenette like he's looking for something specific. When he opens the refrigerator, Eris sees it's been stocked. Formula, bottles, prepared meals in containers marked with dietary information. "You'll need to eat regularly," Silas says without turning around. "Feeding takes calories. Your body will burn through nutrients faster than normal." "How do you know that?" "I read." Such a simple answer that Eris almost laughs. Here's an alpha who looks like he could break someone in half, casually discussing the metabolic requirements of lactation like it's normal dinner conversation. Ronan is still standing too close. Eris can feel the heat radiating off him, can smell that cedar scent getting stronger. It's doing something to his body that he doesn't want to examine too closely, making him hyper-aware of his own skin, of the way his breathing has changed, of the space between them that feels like pressure. "You'll stay in this room," Ronan says. "Feed him when he wakes. Keep him healthy. And if I refuse, you won't." It's not a threat, just a statement of fact. And Eris hates how right it is. He looks at the bassinet, at the tiny form barely visible under the blanket, and knows he's already lost this argument. Cade hasn't moved from his position near the door. He's watching everything with the kind of focus that makes Eris feel transparent. "The doctors will want to run tests," he says. "Blood work, scans, baseline vitals. You'll cooperate." Am I being asked or told? Told. At least he's honest. Eris crosses his arms and tries to look less like someone on the verge of falling apart. "And after the tests? What happens when they figure out I'm not special? When whatever's happening in my body stops?" The three brothers exchange a look that Eris can't interpret. It's Silas who answers, still facing the refrigerator. "Then we'll deal with that when it happens." The baby starts to cry. Not the desperate screaming from before, just a normal newborn fuss. All three alphas go still, their bodies tensing like they've heard a bomb drop. Eris moves past Ronan and lifts the baby from the bassinet, and the crying stops almost immediately. He turns back to face them, the baby cradled against his chest, and watches their expressions shift. Cade's jaw tightens. Ronan's eyes narrow. Silas finally turns around, and there's something raw in his face that makes Eris look away. "He knows you," Ronan says quietly. Eris doesn't respond. The baby's hand is fisted in his scrub top. Holding on like Eris is the only solid thing in a liquid world. Cade moves first, crossing the space between them in 3 strides. He doesn't ask permission, just reaches out and touches the baby's head with a gentleness that seems at odds with everything else about him. His fingers are shaking. "Thank you," he says. So quietly Eris almost misses it. Then he steps back, and the 3 of them move toward the door in perfect synchronization. Like they've been doing this their whole lives. "Someone will bring food at 7, Cade says from the doorway. "Don't try to leave. You said I wasn't a prisoner. You're not. You're something far more important." "What's that?" Cade's expression doesn't change, but something flickers in his eyes. "Irreplaceable." The door closes behind them, and Eris hears the lock click from outside. He stands in the center of the too expensive suite with a baby in his arms and the understanding that he's just been claimed by 3 of the most dangerous men in the city. The baby yawns against his chest, tiny and trusting and already falling back asleep. And Eris realizes with perfect, terrible clarity that he's not afraid of what they'll do to him. He's afraid of what he'd let them do to keep this child safe. How far would you go to protect someone else's child? Even if it means losing yourself in the process? The doctor arrives at 6 in the morning with the kind of smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Eris is already awake, has been since the baby woke him at 4 for a feeding. He's still in yesterday's clothes, still learning how to function on 2 hours of broken sleep. and the woman standing in his doorway looks like she's never been tired a day in her life. "I'm Dr. Chun," she says, setting a medical bag on the coffee table. "I need to run some tests." Eris adjusts his grip on the baby. Now. She doesn't wait for permission, just starts unpacking equipment. Syringes, vials, a portable scanner that Eris doesn't recognize. Her movements are efficient, clinical, and completely disinterested in anything Eris might have to say about it. "Arm out," she instructs. Eris shifts the baby to one side and extends his left arm. The needle slides in clean, and he watches his blood fill 3 vials in quick succession. Dr. Chun labels them with codes instead of names, which feels ominous in ways Eris doesn't want to think about. "How's the baby feeding?" she asks without looking up. "Fine. Every 3 to 4 hours. Any pain?" Eris hesitates. "Some. Scale of 1 to 10? 4. Maybe 5. She makes a note on her tablet. "That's normal. It'll decrease as your body adjusts." She pauses, then adds, "Assuming this continues." "What do you mean, assuming?" Dr. Chun finally looks at him. Her expression is neutral, but there's something calculating behind it. Male omega lactation outside of pharmaceutical intervention is medically unprecedented. Your body shouldn't be doing this. The fact that it is means either we're missing something in your medical history, or you're an anomaly. Which do you think I am? I think anomalies don't last. The words hit harder than they should. Eris looks down at the baby, who's dozed off again in his arms, and feels something twist in his chest. Dr. Chun continues her examination in silence. Temperature, blood pressure, oxygen levels. She uses the scanner on his chest, and Eris tries not to think about what she's seeing. Tries not to wonder what happens when his body decides to stop being useful. "You'll need to increase your caloric intake," she says, packing up her equipment. "At least 3,000 calories a day. More if you're feeling weak." "Anything else?" "Yes." She meets his eyes, and for the first time, there's something almost human in her expression. "Don't get attached." She leaves before Eris can ask what she means, and the lock clicks behind her with a sound like punctuation. The baby wakes 20 minutes later, hungry again. Eris carries him to the chair by the window and tries not to think about Dr. Chen's warning. Tries not to notice how natural this is starting to feel. Dangerous, that getting used to something temporary. He's halfway through the feeding when the door opens again. Not locked this time. The guard, Dion, stands in the doorway with a tray of food that smells like actual cooking instead of reheated meal prep. Behind him, one of the brothers. Eris thinks it's Silas based on the way he moves, quieter than the others, less like a threat and more like a question. "Breakfast," Dion says, setting the tray on the coffee table. Eris nods his thanks, and Dion leaves. But Silas stays. He closes the door behind him and leans against it with his hands in his pockets, watching Eris with the kind of focus that makes his skin feel too warm. "You don't have to stay," Eris says. "I know." "Then why are you?" Silas doesn't answer right away. He moves away from the door, crossing to the window, and stands there looking out at the grounds. The morning light catches his profile, and Eris can see the family resemblance more clearly now. The strong jaw, the sharp cheekbones, the way he holds himself like violence is always an option but rarely necessary. "You corrected your posture wrong," Silas says finally. Eris blinks. "What?" "When you're feeding him, you're compensating for the weight wrong. It's going to hurt your back." Before Eris can respond, Silas is crossing the room. He moves behind the chair, and Eris's entire body goes tense. He can feel the alpha's presence like heat, can smell that scent again. Different from Ronin's cedar, this is something cleaner, like rain and steel. "Relax," Silas says quietly. "I'm just going to adjust you." His hands settle on Eris's shoulders, and Eris stops breathing. The touch is firm but not aggressive, and Silas's fingers press against the knots of tension in his upper back with surprising gentleness. "Straighten your spine," Silas instructs. "Roll your shoulders back. There, that's better." His hands slide down to Eris's lower back, adjusting the angle of his hips in the chair, and Eris feels his face heat. This is too intimate, too close. The baby is still feeding, oblivious to the way Eris's pulse is racing, to the way his body is responding to touch that shouldn't affect him this way. Silas's hand lingers at the small of Eris's back for a moment longer than necessary. Then he steps away, putting distance between them like he felt it too. Better? He asks. Eris can't look at him. Yes. Silas moves back to the window, but the energy in the room has shifted, changed into something Eris doesn't have words for. They sit in silence while the baby finishes feeding, while Eris burps him and settles him back in the bassinet, while the morning light stretches across the floor like accusation. You didn't run, Silas says suddenly. Eris looks up. What? Last night, you could have tried to leave. Instead, you stayed. The door was locked. The balcony wasn't. Eris's stomach drops. He glances at the balcony door. Still closed, but Silas is right. He hadn't even tried it. 3 floors up, Eris says. I'm not an idiot. No, you're something else. Silas turns from the window, and his expression is unreadable. You're someone who makes choices that don't benefit them. That's either stupid or dangerous. Which do you think I am? I haven't decided yet. The baby makes a small sound from the bassinet, and both of them look toward it. Silas's expression softens in a way that makes him look younger, more human. He's stronger, Silas says quietly. Already, in just 12 hours. Good. You did that. I just fed him. No. Silas's eyes cut back to Eris's face. You saved him. There's a difference. Before Eris can respond, the door opens again. This time it's Ronan, and he's carrying a folder thick enough to be intimidating. Out, he says to Silas. Silas doesn't argue, just nods once at Eris and leaves, closing the door behind him. Ronan sets the folder on the coffee table with a sound like a gavel. Your background check came back. Eris's heart stutters. And you're cleaner than most of our employees. No criminal record. No debt. No family. Ronan pauses. No one who'd miss you if you disappeared. The implied threat hangs in the air between them. Eris forces himself to stay still, to not show the fear crawling up his spine. Disappointing, actually. Ronan continues. I was hoping for something interesting. A hidden agenda. A secret employer. Something that would explain why you're here. I'm here because your son was dying. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Ronan studies him with those sharp, assessing eyes. Then he opens the folder and pulls out a single sheet of paper. This is your contract. Standard NDA, non-compete clause, and a provision that anything you learn in this house stays in this house. Sign it. Eris takes the paper. The terms are worse than he expected. He'd essentially be property. Bound to silence, bound to service, bound to... What happens if I don't sign? Ronan's expression doesn't change. You leave. Today. Right now. We'll find another solution. And the baby? Is not your concern. Eris looks at the bassinet. Looks at the tiny form sleeping peacefully for the first time in days. Looks back at the contract that would sign away every freedom he has left. He picks up the pen. Ronan watches him sign without expression. When Eris finishes, he takes the paper and tucks it back into the folder. Congratulations. You're officially employed. As what? Whatever we need you to be. He moves toward the door, then stops with his hand on the handle. One more thing. That adjustment Silas did? Your posture. He glances back at Eris, and there's something dark in his eyes. He didn't need to touch you that long. Remember that. He leaves before Eris can process the words, and the door locks behind him with finality. Eris sits in the chair by the window, his breakfast going cold on the table, and tries to understand what just happened. Tries to figure out what game he's playing and what the rules are. The baby wakes with a soft cry. Eris lifts him from the bassinet, and the crying stops immediately. It's okay, Eris whispers. I've got you. And he realizes, with a clarity that feels like drowning, that he'd sign that contract 1,000 times over if it meant keeping this child safe. Outside the window, he sees all three brothers standing on the grounds below. They're looking up at his window, watching, and Eris understands that being necessary and being safe are not the same thing at all. What would you sacrifice to be needed, even by people who could destroy you? The first time Eris raises his voice, it's Tuesday evening and the baby won't stop crying. Not the desperate screaming from before, just normal newborn fussiness. Tired, overstimulated, needing comfort that Eris's body can't provide at the moment. He's already fed him twice in 3 hours, and his chest aches with a rawness that makes even his shirt feel like sandpaper. The door opens without knocking. It never does anymore, and Cade walks in with that same controlled energy he always carries. He stops when he sees Eris pacing with the baby, sees the exhaustion carved into Eris's face, and his expression shifts into something Eris can't read. How long has he been crying? Cade asks. 20 minutes. You fed him? Twice. Changed him? 3 times. Cade moves closer, and Eris is too tired to step back. The alpha reaches for the baby, and Eris's arms tighten instinctively. I'm not taking him, Cade says quietly. Just checking. His hand settles on the baby's forehead, testing for fever. His fingers brush against Eris's arm in the process, and Eris feels that same electric awareness from before. Cade's touch lingers for half a second longer than necessary before he pulls back. He's fine, Cade says. Just fussy. I know that, but I can't. Eris's voice cracks, and he hates himself for it. I've done everything. Fed him, held him, walked with him, and he's still crying, and I don't know what else to do. The words spill out before he can stop them, sharp and accusing and aimed at the one person in this house who could make everything worse with a single phone call. Cade's expression doesn't change. You think I have answers? You're his father. Biology doesn't make me qualified. Then what does? The silence that follows is sharp enough to draw blood. Cade's jaw tightens, and for a moment, Eris thinks he's pushed too far. Then Cade does something unexpected. He sits in the chair by the window and gestures for Eris to do the same. Give him here, Cade says. Eris hesitates. The baby is still crying, his tiny face red and scrunched, and passing him over feels like admitting defeat. But Eris's arms are shaking, and his body is screaming for rest, and Cade is waiting with a patience that feels dangerous. Eris hands over the baby and immediately regrets it. Cade settles the child against his chest with surprising gentleness. His large hands dwarf the small body, and he cradles the baby's head with a carefulness that seems at odds with everything else Eris knows about him. The baby's crying stutters, confused by the change, then slowly begins to quiet. They respond to heartbeat, Cade says without looking up. Rhythm. Yours was too fast. Panicked. I wasn't. You were. It's fine. He's not judging you for it. The baby's eyes drift closed, and within minutes, he's asleep against Cade's chest. The silence in the room feels huge after 20 minutes of crying. Eris sinks into the opposite chair and tries not to feel like a failure. Tries not to notice how natural Cade looks holding his son. How the hard edges of his face soften when he's not actively being terrifying. You're doing better than we expected, Cade says quietly. Eris looks up, startled. What? The doctor said you'd last 3 days before your body gave out. It's been 5. You're exceeding projections. That's what you tell someone who's doing well? That they haven't died yet? Cade's mouth curves slightly. It's not quite a smile, but it's close. In this house, survival is success. Before Eris can respond, the door opens again. Ronan and Silas walk in together, moving in that synchronized way they have. They stop when they see Cade holding the baby, and something unspoken passes between the three of them. He settled, Ronan asks. 5 minutes ago. Told you he'd respond to alpha presence. Cade's eyes cut to Eris. He responds to Eris perfectly fine. That's different. How? Ronan doesn't answer. Instead, he crosses to where Eris is sitting and drops into a crouch in front of him. This close, Eris can see the scar through his eyebrow more clearly, can smell that cedar scent that makes his body react in ways he's trying very hard to ignore. "You look like shit," Ronan says conversationally. "Thanks." "When's the last time you slept more than 2 hours?" Eris doesn't answer. Can't really. He's lost track of time, lost track of everything that isn't the baby's needs and his own body's insistent demands. Ronan's hand moves before Eris can react. His fingers catch Eris's chin, tilting his face toward the light, and Eris feels his pulse spike. The touch is firmer than Cade's had been, more possessive, and it does something to Eris's body that he doesn't want to examine. "You're running yourself into the ground," Ronan says. "That helps no one." "I'm fine." "You're lying." Ronan's thumb brushes against Eris's jaw, and Eris jerks his head back. The alpha lets him, but his eyes track the movement like a predator watching prey decide whether to run. Silas speaks from somewhere behind them. He needs help. Night feedings. Someone to take the baby for a few hours. "We have staff for that," Ronan says without looking away from Eris. He doesn't trust staff. "Then what do you suggest?" "One of us stays." The room goes quiet. Eris watches Cade's expression shift into something unreadable, watches Ronan's eyes narrow slightly. Silas is still standing by the door, but there's tension in his shoulders that wasn't there before. "That's not appropriate," Cade says finally. "Neither is letting him collapse from exhaustion." "We can't." "Why not?" Silas moves away from the door, and for the first time, Eris hears an edge in his voice. "He's here because of our son. The least we can do is make sure he survives long enough to keep helping." Cade looks down at the sleeping baby in his arms, then at Eris, then at his brothers. "One of us," he says. "Rotating schedule. No one stays more than 4 hours." "Agreed," Silas says immediately. Ronan straightens from his crouch, still watching Eris with that intense focus. "Fine, I'll take first shift." "No," Cade says. "Silas takes first shift." "You're two." "Two what?" The tension between them crackles like electricity. Eris looks between the three brothers and realizes he's watching something he's not supposed to see. A power dynamic that has nothing to do with him and everything to do with the child currently sleeping in Cade's arms. "Silas takes first shift," Cade repeats, and his voice has dropped into something darker, something absolute. Ronan's jaw tightens, but he doesn't argue, just nods once and moves toward the door. He pauses next to Eris on his way out, leans down until his mouth is next to Eris's ear, close enough that Eris can feel the words more than hear them. "Don't get too comfortable," Ronan murmurs. "You're not family. You're a solution to a problem. Remember that." Then he's gone, and the door closes behind him with a sound like a warning. Eris sits very still and tries to control his breathing. Tries to ignore the way his body is still responding to Ronan's proximity, to the cedar scent that lingers in the air, to the memory of his hand on Eris's jaw. Cade stands carefully, the baby still asleep against his chest. He carries him to the bassinet and lowers him with the kind of gentleness that seems impossible for someone his size. "Silas will be here at 10, Cade says. "Try to sleep before then." "I don't need." "It wasn't a suggestion." Cade moves toward the door, then stops with his hand on the handle. He turns back, and there's something in his expression that makes Eris's breath catch. "My brother is wrong about one thing," Cade says quietly. "You're not just a solution. You're—" He pauses, searching for words. "You're more complicated than that." "What does that mean?" "I don't know yet." He leaves, and this time the door doesn't lock behind him. Eris sits in the chair by the window and watches the sun set over the estate grounds. His body aches everywhere. His chest is raw. His mind is spinning with exhaustion and confusion and the dawning understanding that he's trapped in something that has nothing to do with the baby and everything to do with the way three powerful men are looking at him like he's a puzzle they need to solve. The baby sleeps peacefully in his bassinet, his tiny chest rising and falling in a rhythm that Eris has already memorized. And Eris realizes that somewhere in the last 5 days, this stopped being about survival. This became about something he doesn't have a name for yet. The baby reaches out in his sleep, his hand opening and closing like he's searching for something. Eris reaches into the bassinet and lets the small fingers wrap around his thumb. The baby's grip tightens, and Eris feels something in his chest break open. Outside the window, he sees Silas standing on the grounds, looking up, watching, and Eris understands with perfect, terrible clarity that being needed by these men is the most dangerous thing that's ever happened to him. When protection starts to feel like possession, how do you know when you've crossed the line? Silas arrives at exactly 10 o'clock with a duffel bag and the kind of quiet that makes Eris more nervous than Ronan's aggression ever could. He doesn't knock, just uses a key card and steps inside, closing the door behind him with barely a sound. Eris is still awake, sitting in the chair by the window with the baby asleep in his arms, and he watches Silas move through the space like he's done this 100 times before. "You're supposed to be sleeping," Silas says, setting the duffel bag on the couch. "Can't. Won't, you mean?" Eris doesn't argue. Silas is right. Every time he tries to close his eyes, his body jerks awake with panic, convinced the baby has stopped breathing or started crying or needs something Eris isn't there to provide. Silas crosses to him and holds out his hands. "Give him here. He's fine. Eris." Silas's voice drops lower, gentler. "You can't hold him forever. Let me take him for a few hours." The idea of letting go makes Eris's chest tighten with something that feels too much like grief. But his arms are shaking, and Silas is waiting with a patience that feels dangerous in its steadiness. Eris hands over the baby. Silas takes him with the same careful gentleness Cade had shown earlier, settling the child against his chest like he's done this before. The baby doesn't wake, just shifts slightly and settles deeper into sleep, his tiny hand fisting in Silas's shirt. "See," Silas says quietly. "He's fine." Eris stands on legs that feel unsteady and moves to the bed. He sits on the edge, then lies back, and the softness of the mattress after days of sleeping in chairs feels like drowning. His eyes close without permission. "I'll wake you if he needs you," Silas says from somewhere near the window. Eris wants to argue, wants to say he needs to stay alert. Instead, exhaustion drags him under like a riptide, and he's asleep before he can fight it. He wakes to voices, low and controlled, but urgent enough to pull him out of sleep. The room is dark except for a single lamp by the couch, and it takes Eris a moment to remember where he is. Silas is standing by the door, the baby still asleep against his chest. Dion is in the doorway, and there's tension in his posture that wasn't there before. "Can't confirm the source, but the leak is real," Dion is saying. "Someone outside the family knows about the baby. About him." Eris's stomach drops. He sits up slowly, trying not to draw attention, but Silas glances his way and their eyes meet across the room. "How much do they know?" Silas asks. "Enough. That the heir was dying. That someone saved him." They're asking questions. What kind of questions? The kind that end with people showing up at the gate. Silas's jaw tightens. He looks down at the baby, then back at Dion. Double security. No one in or out without clearance from all three of us. Already done. But Silas, if they know about the Omega, they don't. You can't be sure of that. Then we make sure they never find out. Dion nods and disappears into the hallway. Silas closes the door and locks it, then moves to the bassinet and carefully lowers the baby into it. His movements are controlled, but Eris can see the tension in his shoulders. "What was that about?" Eris asks. Silas doesn't turn around. "Nothing you need to worry about. Someone knows about me." "No, they know about the baby. That's different." "Is it?" Silas finally looks at him, and there's something dark in his expression. "Yes, because the baby is public knowledge. His existence, his health, those are things our enemies watch. But you..." He crosses to the bed, and Eris feels his pulse spike. "You're invisible. And that's the only thing keeping you safe right now." The words land like a threat and a promise at the same time. Eris swings his legs off the bed, suddenly too aware of how vulnerable he is in this room, in this house, in this life he didn't choose. Safe from what? From people who would use you to hurt us. I'm not. I don't matter to you. Silas's expression shifts into something Eris can't read. You really believe that? Before Eris can answer, the baby makes a small sound from the bassinet. Not crying, just awake. Both of them move toward him at the same time, and Silas steps back to let Eris reach him first. Eris lifts the baby, and the small body molds against his chest with the kind of trust that still breaks something inside him every time. The baby roots against him, hungry, and Eris moves to the chair by the window. Silas watches from a distance, giving them space, but Eris can feel his eyes tracking every movement. You're good at this, Silas says after a while. At what? Being what he needs. Eris doesn't know how to respond to that. He focuses on the baby, on the rhythm of feeding that's become as natural as breathing, and tries not to think about the conversation he just overheard. Tries not to think about what it means that people are asking questions. The feeding finishes, and Eris burps the baby with practiced efficiency. When he looks up, Silas is closer than before, standing just a few feet away, watching with an intensity that makes Eris's skin feel too warm. You should go back to sleep, Silas says. I'm fine. You're lying again. Silas moves closer, and Eris's body tenses without his permission. The alpha stops just at the edge of his personal space. Close enough that Eris can smell that rain and steel scent. Close enough that he can see the way Silas's pupils dilate slightly. I'm not going to hurt you, Silas says quietly. I know. Then why are you afraid? I'm not afraid of you. What are you afraid of? The question hangs in the air between them, too honest and too complicated to answer. Eris looks down at the baby in his arms, at the tiny face slack with sleep, and realizes the truth is worse than any lie he could tell. He's afraid of how much he wants to stay, how much he wants this, the baby, the protection, the way these three dangerous men look at him like he's something rare. He's afraid that when his body stops being useful, he'll be discarded. And he's afraid that the worst part won't be leaving. It'll be how much he'll miss this when it's gone. Silas reaches out slowly, giving Eris time to pull away. His fingers brush against Eris's cheek, and Eris's breath catches. The touch is gentle, careful. Nothing like Ronan's possessive grip or Cade's clinical assessment. You're not alone here, Silas says. I'm not part of your family either. No, you're something else. What? Silas's thumb traces the line of Eris's jaw, and Eris feels heat spread through his body like wildfire. I don't know yet, but I'm starting to think that's the point. He steps back before Eris can process the words, moving to the couch and settling onto it like he's planning to stay. He pulls a tablet from his duffel bag and starts reading, and just like that, the moment is over. Eris stands carefully and carries the baby to the bassinet. He settles him down and the child doesn't stir, just sleeps with the peace of someone who knows he's safe. When Eris turns back, Silas is watching him over the edge of the tablet. Sleep, Silas says. I've got him. And Eris realizes with a certainty that feels like falling that he believes him. That somewhere in the last 6 days, he started trusting these men who hold his life in their hands. He lies down on the bed and closes his eyes. And for the first time since this started, he sleeps without dreaming. When danger becomes your new normal, how do you know what safety even looks like anymore? The threat arrives on Wednesday morning in the form of a note slipped under Eris's door. He finds it when he wakes at dawn. Silas already gone and the baby still sleeping. The paper is expensive, thick, cream-colored, the kind that money whispers through. The message is written in careful block letters that reveal nothing about the writer. The omega doesn't belong here. Eris's hands shake as he reads it. Once, twice, 3 times, like repetition will change the words. He looks at the door, still locked from the inside, which means someone with access put this here. Someone who works in the house. Someone who knows what he is. He crosses to the bassinet and checks the baby even though he can hear him breathing. The child is fine, perfect, completely unaware that the walls around them are cracking. Eris folds the note and shoves it in his pocket. He should tell someone, should hand it over to Cade or Ronan or Silas and let them deal with it. But something stops him. Maybe pride. Maybe fear of seeming weak. Maybe the growing certainty that showing vulnerability in this house is the same as painting a target on his back. The baby wakes hungry, and Eris goes through the morning routine on autopilot. Feed, burp, change, rock back to sleep. His mind is somewhere else entirely, cataloging every interaction he's had with the household staff. The nurses who come for daily checkups. The cleaners who restock the kitchenette. Dion, who brings meals and never quite meets his eyes. By the time Ronan arrives at noon, Eris has convinced himself he's being paranoid. Then he sees Ronan's face. The Alpha closes the door behind him with controlled violence, and the temperature in the room drops 10 degrees. He doesn't speak, just crosses to where Eris is sitting with the baby and holds out his hand. "Give it to me," Ronan says. Eris's stomach plummets. "What?" "The note. I know you have it. There's no point lying." Eris pulls the folded paper from his pocket and hands it over. Ronan reads it once, his expression going darker with each word, then crumples it in his fist. "Who else has seen this?" Ronan asks, his voice dangerously quiet. "No one. Why didn't you report it?" Eris doesn't have a good answer. "I didn't want to cause problems." Ronan's laugh is sharp and humorless. "You think hiding threats doesn't cause problems?" He moves closer, and Eris instinctively pulls the baby tighter against his chest. "Someone in this house wants you gone. Someone with access to the family wing. And you thought keeping that quiet was the smart move. I didn't know what to do. You tell us. That's what you do. Always." The anger in Ronan's voice isn't directed at Eris. Not entirely. There's something else underneath it. Something that looks almost like fear, though Eris can't imagine what someone like Ronan would have to be afraid of. Ronan pulls out his phone and makes a call. Security sweep. Family wing. Everyone who's been near room 347 in the last 24 hours. I want names. He listens for a moment, then adds, "And pull the hallway footage. Someone slipped a note under the door between midnight and 6. Find them." He ends the call and looks at Eris with an expression that's harder to read now. "You stay in this room until we figure out who wrote that." "I wasn't planning on leaving." "Good. Because if you try, I'll drag you back myself." It should sound like a threat. Instead, it sounds like a promise. Like protection wrapped in aggression, because that's the only language Ronan knows how to speak. The baby fusses, and Ronan's expression shifts immediately. He reaches out before Eris can stop him, his large hand settling on the baby's head with surprising gentleness. "He okay?" Ronan asks. "Fine. Just tired." Ronan's hand lingers, his thumb brushing against the baby's soft hair, and Eris sees something in his face that he's not supposed to see. Vulnerability, love, fear that this small, perfect thing could be taken away. "No one's going to hurt him," Ronan says, but Eris isn't sure if he's talking to Eris or himself. Then Ronan's hand shifts, his fingers brushing against Eris's collarbone where the scrub top has slipped down. The touch is brief, barely a second, but it sends heat racing through Eris's body like lightning. Ronan's eyes darken. His hand doesn't move away immediately, and Eris can feel his pulse hammering against the Alpha's fingertips. Can feel the way Ronan's breathing has changed, deeper and more controlled, like he's fighting something. "You need to be more careful," Ronan says, his voice rougher now. "I am careful." "No, you're trusting. That's different." His hand drops away, but the heat of it lingers on Eris's skin. "Trust gets people killed in this house. Then why should I trust you?" The question hangs between them, sharp and dangerous. Ronan's expression hardens into something unreadable, and for a moment, Eris thinks he's pushed too far. Then Ronan leans down, his mouth close to Eris's ear, and when he speaks, his voice is low enough that it feels like a secret. "Because we're the only ones keeping you alive right now. Remember that." He straightens and moves to the door, stops with his hand on the handle and glances back. "Cade will be here tonight. Don't open the door for anyone else." Then he's gone, and Eris is left alone with a sleeping baby and the certain knowledge that the invisible protection he's been living under just became very, very visible. He stands and moves to the window. 3 floors down, he can see staff members being questioned by security. Can see Dion gesturing toward the building, his expression grim. The baby starts to cry. Not hungry, just unsettled, and Eris lifts him from the bassinet. He walks to the window and rocks gently, watching the interrogation below, and realizes that saving the baby's life has made him a target. And the only people who can protect him are the same ones who own him. How do you survive when the people who save you are also the ones who trap you? The baby gets sick again on Thursday night, and Eris feels his entire world crack open. It starts with a cough. Small, almost nothing. Then the baby's temperature spikes, and his breathing goes shallow, and Eris is suddenly back in that nursery 6 days ago watching a child die in real time. "No," Eris whispers, his hands shaking as he lifts the baby from the bassinet. "No, no, no, not again." The baby's skin is too hot. His tiny chest heaves with each breath, and there's a rattle underneath it that makes Eris's blood go cold. He's burning up, and Eris doesn't know what to do, doesn't know if this is his fault somehow, if his body failed, if... The door slams open. All 3 brothers pour in like a storm, and Eris realizes someone must have been monitoring the baby's vitals remotely. Cade crosses to him first, his face carved from stone. "How long?" Cade demands. 10 minutes, maybe less. He was fine, and then, "Give him to me." Eris's arms tighten instinctively. The baby is crying now, weak and breathless, and every instinct Eris has is screaming to hold on, to not let go, to fix this himself, because if he can't... "Eris!" Cade's voice cuts through the panic. "I need to check him. Let me have him." Eris's hands are shaking so hard he can barely hold on. He passes the baby to Cade, and the loss feels like amputation, like watching a part of himself walk away. Cade lays the baby on the bed and starts checking vitals with a competence that shouldn't surprise Eris but does. Ronan is already on the phone with doctors, his voice clipped and controlled. Silas moves to Eris's side, and his hand settles on Eris's shoulder, grounding, steady. "He's going to be okay," Silas says quietly. "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." The doctor arrives within minutes. Dr. Chun, looking more alert at midnight than Eris has ever felt in his life. She examines the baby with efficient precision while Eris stands frozen by the window, watching everything through a haze of terror. "Respiratory infection," Dr. Chun announces. "Common in newborns. We'll start antibiotics and monitor his oxygen levels." "Will he..." Eris's voice breaks. "Is he going to be okay?" Dr. Chun looks at him properly for the first time since entering. Her expression softens slightly. "With treatment, yes. But he needs to feed regularly to maintain strength." "Can you do that?" Eris nods before his brain catches up. His body still aches from the last feeding. His chest raw and oversensitive, but none of that matters. The baby needs him, and Eris would tear himself apart before letting him down. The doctor administers the first dose of antibiotics, and slowly, painfully slowly, the baby's breathing begins to ease. Not back to normal, but better, stable. The brothers don't leave. They take positions around the room like sentries, and Eris realizes they're not just worried. They're terrified. These men who control an empire, who make people disappear with phone calls, are completely helpless against a virus that doesn't care about power or money or threats. An hour passes. Then 2. The baby falls into a restless sleep, and Dr. Chun finally leaves with instructions to call immediately if anything changes. Eris sits in the chair by the bed, watching the baby's chest rise and fall, and feels something inside him shatter. He can't do this. Can't be responsible for keeping this tiny, fragile life alive when he can barely keep himself together. His vision blurs. He blinks hard, but the tears come anyway. Silent, exhausting, impossible to stop. He covers his face with his hands and tries to breathe through the panic clawing at his chest. He doesn't hear Cade approach. Doesn't realize the alpha is there until he feels fingers wrap around his wrists, gentle but firm, pulling his hands away from his face. Cade kneels in front of him, which is wrong. Men like Cade don't kneel for anyone. But he's there, at eye level, and his expression is softer than Eris has ever seen it. "This isn't your fault," Cade says quietly. "I should have noticed sooner." "Should have. You did everything right. Babies get sick. It happens. What if he—" Eris can't finish the sentence. Can't voice the fear that's been living in his chest since the moment he picked up the crying infant in that nursery. Cade's hand moves to Eris's face. His thumb catches a tear before it can fall, and the touch is so gentle that Eris stops breathing. Cade's eyes are dark, intense, focused entirely on Eris like nothing else in the world exists. "He's not going to die," Cade says. "Not tonight. Not with you here. You don't know that." "Yes, I do." Cade's hand lingers on Eris's cheek, his fingers brushing against Eris's jaw. "Because you're not just keeping him alive. You're giving him a reason to fight." The words break something in Eris. A sob escapes before he can stop it, and then Cade is pulling him forward into an embrace that shouldn't be comforting but is. Eris's face presses against Cade's shoulder, and he can smell expensive cologne and coffee and something underneath that's just Cade. "I've got you," Cade murmurs against his hair. "Both of you. I've got you." And Eris believes him. They stay like that for longer than they should. When Cade finally pulls back, his hand lingers at the nape of Eris's neck, and there's something in his expression that Eris can't name. Something dangerous and complicated and entirely too human. Across the room, Ronan is watching them with an unreadable expression. Silas has his back turned, staring out the window, but the tension in his shoulders suggests he's aware of everything happening behind him. The baby stirs with a weak cry. Eris wipes his eyes and moves to the bed, lifting the child carefully. The baby roots against him, hungry despite being sick, and Eris settles into the chair to feed him. Cade stands and moves away, giving them space. But Eris can feel all three brothers watching, can feel the weight of their attention like a physical thing. The baby feeds slowly, his small body working hard, but he feeds. And when he finally falls back asleep, his breathing is easier, stronger. Eris looks up and finds Ronan standing closer than before. The alpha's expression is complicated, relief mixed with something darker. "You heard us talking earlier," Ronan says. Not a question. Eris nods. "About guardianship." Silence falls heavy and complete. All three brothers exchange a look that Eris can't interpret, and he realizes he stepped into something he wasn't supposed to know about. "What did you hear exactly?" Silas asks carefully. "Just my name, and something about paperwork." More silence. Then Cade speaks, his voice measured. "We're making arrangements. Legal protections. For the baby." "What kind of protections?" "The kind that ensure he's taken care of if something happens to us." It's a reasonable answer. Logical. But there's something underneath it that Eris can feel without understanding. Something these three men aren't saying. "And me?" Eris asks. "Am I part of those arrangements?" No one answers right away. Then Ronan moves closer, his expression hardening into something Eris recognizes as protection disguised as aggression. "You're part of this family now," Ronan says, "whether you like it or not." The words should terrify him. Instead, they settle over Eris like armor. When the people who terrify you also become the only ones you trust, what does that say about you? The paperwork arrives on Friday, but no one tells Eris about it. He only knows because he overhears Dion talking to someone in the hallway. Phrases like legal guardian and secondary custody and protective orders that don't make sense until they do. They're not just protecting the baby, they're protecting Eris. He sits in the chair by the window with the baby asleep in his arms and tries to understand what that means. Tries to figure out why three men who could destroy him with a phone call are instead building walls around him. The door opens quietly. Silas steps inside, and there's something different about him tonight. Less controlled, more human. "You should be sleeping," Silas says, "but there's no heat in it." "Can't." Silas crosses to the couch and sits, and they exist in silence for a while. The baby breathes steadily against Eris's chest, and outside the window, the estate grounds are dark except for security lights. "I heard you talking," Eris says finally. "About the paperwork." Silas doesn't look surprised. "What did you hear?" "Enough." Eris adjusts the baby carefully. "Why are you doing this?" "Doing what?" "Protecting me. I'm nobody. I don't have family or connections or anything that makes me valuable to you beyond." He gestures at the baby. "This." Silas leans forward, his elbows on his knees, and for the first time since Eris met him, he looks uncertain, vulnerable. "You're wrong," Silas says quietly. "About what?" "You think you're nobody. You think once your body stops being useful, we'll throw you away." Silas looks up, and his eyes are dark, intense. "But you don't understand what you've done. You saved our son when everyone else failed. You walked into danger without asking what it would cost you. You stayed when you could have run." "That's not nothing, Eris. That's everything." The words land like blows. Eris tries to respond, but his throat has closed around anything he might say. Silas stands and crosses to him, kneels in front of the chair the same way Cade had done the night before, and Eris's breath catches. "Thank you," Silas says, and his voice breaks slightly on the words, "for saving him, for staying, for..." He stops, struggling with something, "for being exactly who you are." His hand moves to Eris's face, cupping his jaw with a gentleness that makes Eris's chest ache. His forehead drops forward until it almost touches Eris's, and the space between them is charged with something Eris doesn't have a name for. "You're not nobody," Silas whispers. "Not to us. Not anymore." Then he pulls back and stands, putting distance between them like he's afraid of what will happen if he stays too close. Eris watches him move to the window, his shoulders tight with tension, and realizes the truth he's been avoiding. These men aren't just protecting him because he's useful. They're protecting him because somewhere in the last 8 days, he stopped being a solution and became something else entirely. Something they're willing to fight for. The baby shifts in his sleep, and Eris looks down at the small face slack with peace. When he looks up again, Silas is watching him with an expression that makes Eris's pulse race. "What happens next?" Eris asks. Silas's mouth curves into something that's almost a smile. "We keep you safe. Both of you. For how long?" "As long as it takes." "As long as what takes?" Silas doesn't answer, just holds Eris's gaze with an intensity that feels like promise and threat and something far more dangerous than either. And Eris realizes that the question he should be asking isn't, "What happens next?" It's, "What have I become to these men that they'd rewrite reality to keep me here? What happens when the cage you're in starts to feel like the only place you're truly seen?" 2 weeks later, Eris stands in the nursery at 3 in the morning with the baby sleeping peacefully in his arms. The sickness passed. The threats stopped, or at least they stopped reaching him. The house settled into something that almost feels normal, except Eris knows better now. Knows that normal in this world is just violence taking a breath. He's gained weight. His body adjusted to the impossible thing it's doing, and the pain faded into something manageable. Dr. Chun stopped looking at him like a medical mystery and started looking at him like a person. The household staff stopped whispering when he walked past. And the brothers... Eris closes his eyes and tries not to think about the way they look at him now. The way Cade's hand lingers on his shoulder when he checks on the baby. The way Ronan stands too close when they talk, his body angled like protection. The way Silas watches him with something in his eyes that makes Eris feel seen in ways he's never experienced. He should be afraid of it, should recognize it for the trap it is. Instead, he's terrified of what he'll do when it ends. The door opens. Eris doesn't turn around, but he knows from the footsteps that it's all 3 of them. They move into the nursery together, forming a semicircle behind him, and Eris feels their presence like heat. "He's getting bigger," Kate says quietly. "Stronger," Ronan adds. "Because of you," Silas finishes. Eris turns to face them, the baby still cradled against his chest. In the dim light of the nursery, the 3 brothers look less like criminals and more like men carrying weight they'll never put down. What happens when I'm not needed anymore? Eris asks. The question has been living in his chest for days, weeks, since the moment he understood that his value here has an expiration date. Cade's expression doesn't change. Who says you won't be needed? My body won't do this forever. Eventually doesn't matter. Ronan moves closer, and Eris's pulse jumps. You're not here because of what your body can do. You're here because of who you are. I'm nobody. You keep saying that. Silas's voice is soft but firm. When are you going to believe that we don't agree? The baby stirs in Eris's arms, making a small sound of contentment. All three brothers look at their son, and their expressions shift into something Eris has seen before but never understood until now. Love. Fierce and protective and absolute. When they look back at Eris, that expression doesn't change. And Eris realizes with a clarity that feels like falling that somewhere in the last 3 weeks, he became part of something he never asked for and can't walk away from. Not because he's trapped, but because leaving would hurt worse than staying. The paperwork went through, Cade says. You're listed as legal guardian, secondary custody, protected under family authority. Eris's breath catches. What does that mean? It means you're ours now, Ronan says bluntly. Legally, irrevocably. Anyone who wants to hurt you has to go through us first. And anyone who wants to take him, Silas nods at the baby, has to go through you. The weight of it settles over Eris like inevitability. He looks down at the baby sleeping peacefully in his arms, then back at the 3 men who've somehow become the most important people in his life. I didn't ask for this, Eris whispers. We know, Cade says. I don't know how to be what you need me to be. You already are. The baby shifts and Eris automatically adjusts his grip. The brothers watch the movement with expressions that make Eris's chest tighten. What happens now? Eris asks. Silas moves closer, and his hand settles on the baby's head with infinite gentleness. Now we figure out how to live with what we've done. What have we done? Cade's mouth curves into something that's almost a smile. Changed everything. For all of us. They stand there in the dim nursery. 3 alphas, 1 omega, and a baby who's sleeping peacefully because for the first time in his short life, he's exactly where he's supposed to be. And Eris realizes that the story he thought he was living, the one about survival and sacrifice, was never the real story at all. The real story is the one that's just beginning. The one where being seen by dangerous men becomes the most dangerous thing of all. Not because they'll hurt him, but because somewhere along the way he stopped wanting to be invisible. He wanted to be exactly this. Needed. Protected. And that truth is more terrifying than anything else that's happened in this house. Outside the nursery window, dawn is breaking over the estate grounds. A new day. A new normal. A new life that Eris never planned for but can no longer imagine living without. The baby sighs in his sleep, and Eris holds him closer. Behind him, the 3 brothers stand watch. Always watching, always there. And Eris finally understands that the most dangerous trap isn't the one that locks you in. It's the one that makes you never want to leave. Weeks later, an internal memo changed everything, but Eris Vale never saw it. The end.